259 people have been rescued from another detention facility uncovered by the Oyo State Police Command in Ibadan, the capital, and handed over to the government. Operators of the facility, located at Olore area along the Ibadan-Lagos Expressway at Ojo, claim it's a correctional center for delinquents. The Oyo State Commissioner of Police, who led a team from his command, along with the state government officials, frowned at the condition of some of the inmates, promising to bring the perpetrators to book. Those rescued include 34 females, 10 children, and an infant. India's Supreme Court has accused state governments of refusing to take responsibility for the current air pollution in the capital, Delhi, and for failing to take action. The Supreme Court says authorities have only been interested in what it calls gimmicks rather than concrete measures to combat pollution levels. Simon Pusey has more international news in Around the World in 5.
Good evening from the Channel's newsroom here in London. The Indian capital Delhi has launched a car rationing system as it battles hazardous levels of pollution. From the 4th to the 15th of November, only cars with either odd or even number plates will be allowed on the roads each day. Such a system has been used before, but it's not clear if it actually helps bring down pollution. Levels of dangerous particles in the air, known as PM 2.5, are at well over 10 times safe limits. The city government has declared a public health emergency. Vietnamese police have arrested 8 people over the deaths of 39 people found inside a lorry trailer in Essex last month. The police chief said they have launched an investigation to eradicate the rings which bring people illegally to Britain. He added that the police were treating the tragedy as a smuggling incident rather than a case of people trafficking. Meanwhile, Greek police found 41 migrants hiding in a refrigerated truck during a routine check on a motorway in northern Greece on Monday. The migrants, mostly from Afghanistan, were not injured, police said, but some asked to go to hospital. The refrigeration system had not been turned on in the truck. The US President Donald Trump has threatened to cut federal funding for the wildfires sweeping California in a Twitter spat with the state's governor. Nearly 100,000 acres have been destroyed by wildfires in recent weeks, and thousands have been forced from their homes. Mr. Trump blamed Governor Gavin Newsom, a Democrat, saying he had done a terrible job of forest management. Several of this year's major wildfires have burned in unforested areas.
We should not have to be here. Years and years of greed, years and years of mismanagement, particularly with the largest investor-owned utility in the state of California, PG&E. That greed has precipitated in a lack of intentionality and focus on hardening their grid, undergrounding their transmission lines. They simply did not do their job. It took us decades to get here, but we will get out of this mess.
At least 5 people were killed as Iraqi security forces opened fire on protesters in Baghdad on Monday, as thousands continued to gather in the largest wave of anti-government protests for decades. Security forces tried to disperse protesters, firing live ammunition, tear gas canisters and using water cannon while protesters tried to assist the wounded. It is unclear how many people have been so far injured in the clashes, but at least 3 people were shot dead when protesters attacked the Iranian consulate in the Iraqi holy city of Karbala on Sunday night. Prime Minister Abdel Mahdi appealed to protesters to suspend their movement. The Premier has said he is willing to resign if politicians agree on a replacement and has promised a number of reforms. One person has died and at least 34 were injured on Monday in a grenade attack in Indian-administered Kashmir's main city of Srinagar in the bloodiest incident since New Delhi stripped the region of special status. The injured, including 3 Indian paramilitary police, have been admitted to one of 3 hospitals after the blast on Hari Singh High Street in the centre of the city. One person is in a critical condition. The Muslim-majority Kashmir Valley, claimed by both India and Pakistan, has been in turmoil since New Delhi announced it would strip the territory of its long-held autonomy and statehood. Iran will not lift its ban on talks with the United States. That's according to Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Making the announcement, he described the two countries as implacable foes on the eve of the 40th anniversary of the seizure of the US Embassy in Tehran. Relations between the two foes have reached a crisis over the past year after US President Donald Trump abandoned a 2015 pact between Iran and world powers. And finally, people living in parts of rural Australia are celebrating after much-needed rain brought an end to one of the country's longest dry spells. A series of storms broke out in New South Wales over the weekend, bringing relief to parched lands. Children and adults alike ran outside in joy as the heavens opened. The country needs much more water to end the current drought. But that didn't stop these people celebrating in a very particular way. And that's your international news around the world in 5.
Many thanks, Simon. Now let's find out what's happening in the world of sports. Charles is standing by.
Thanks, Melinda. And we'll begin with female basketball. That's Nigeria's women's national team. The Tigers head coach Otis Hughley has unveiled a 12-woman roster for the 2020 pre-Olympics qualifiers scheduled for Mozambique on November the 14th to the 17th. Coach Hughley has recalled US-based Upe Atosu, whose last game for Nigeria was at the 2017 AfroBasket final win over Senegal. 2019 AfroBasket MVP Ezinne Kalu, Promise Anumakara, Atoye Ngingefa, Sierra Imovio, and Evelyn Akato have also been included in the list alongside team captain Adaura Elonu. The reigning African champions are grouped alongside hosts Mozambique and DR Congo in Group A. The finalists in Mozambique will automatically book their tickets to the 16-nation final Olympic qualifiers for a place in Tokyo. Now to football. National under-23 team, the Olympic Eagles, are intensifying final preparations for this month's under-23 African Cup of Nations finals in Egypt, with high expectations of picking up all available points against their Ivorian counterparts in Saturday's opening game of Group B. Head coach Imama Amakpakabo is delighted with the output of his boys at training sessions in Ismailia since the team arrived on Thursday evening. The Olympic Eagles are expected to depart their Ismailia training camp for Cairo on Thursday. Team captain Azubike Okechukwu, defenders Bitok Stephen and Josiah Chukwudi, as well as forward Taiwo Awoni, are the only players still expected in the team's camp and are expected to arrive before their departure to Cairo. In club soccer, Chelsea manager Frank Lampard has warned his squad of the dangers posed by Ajax's technical players ahead of Tuesday's UEFA Champions League clash. The London side take on their Dutch opponents at Stamford Bridge just weeks after his young team surprised many with a convincing 1-0 win in Amsterdam. Lampard says expectations are always high on Chelsea in the Champions League, a trophy they won in 2012. And in tennis, Kim Clijsters has postponed her return to action due to her ongoing recovery from a knee injury after announcing the end of her second retirement. The 36-year-old player has abandoned her plans for a January return to continue rehabilitation. Clijsters retired in 2007 but returned after the birth of her first child. She played in 2009 before winning 3 more Grand Slams, making 4 in total, and retired again in 2012. She planned to make a second return to action after making her announcement in September this year and said January 2020 was her provisional target. We wait for that return, but that's it on sports news, and it's back to Melinda with the rest of the news at 10.
Let's hope that happens soon. Many thanks, Charles. And the main news again. The police in Lagos State today rescued a 17-year-old girl allegedly locked up in a warehouse by her mistress in the Sherry area. The girl, who identified herself as Blessing, told Channels Television that her boss locked her up after she decided to quit working for her as a domestic help. Also today, President Muhammadu Buhari signed the amended Deep Offshore Act with an assurance that Nigeria will now receive its fair, rightful and equitable share of income. And India's Supreme Court today accused state governments of refusing to take responsibility for the current air pollution in the capital, Delhi. That's the news at 10 tonight. On behalf of the team, good night.